Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a really big week. Today's vlog theme is research and field work. I'm flying to Los Angeles on Thursday to do my field work for my thesis, or at least what I hope will become my thesis. But it's currently Monday. I'm on my way to class this morning. I'm a teaching assistant for a class called The History of Fashion, and I have to attend lecture with the undergrads. So I did that this morning, worked in the library for a little bit, and now I'm on my way to my class. It's like a thesis preparation class where we go through the process of writing a proposal and then getting the basics, the structure, and some of the field work out of the way before the spring semester where we just write our thesis. So going to my classroom where I can hopefully sit down and eat a little bit of lunch, and then I have ballet tonight. So I was gonna say I don't know why I feel like crying today, but I know exactly why. I'm just really feeling it today. Hi, I haven't spoken to the camera since Monday. Yesterday was not a good day. Not that anything in particular happened. I was just so exhausted that I went home, and then I had to turn around and go back into the city for the second year picnic for my program. And that was fun, but exhausting, and I came home just like crawling on the ground, curling up like a little bug to die. X's on the eyes. And I woke up to find out that my financial aid award changed and I'm getting less money than I thought I was. So we're doing great this week. We're doing really great. And I don't want to eat, and I'm having coffee with a friend later, so we're not having coffee. Sparkling water is my beverage of choice this morning. Probably shouldn't have chugged it like that. Wednesday, I'm gonna call the financial aid office. I'm going out for coffee with a friend. I have class, and then I'm teaching this evening. I haven't had the time to actually think about the fact that I'm going on a research trip. I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't mean that facetiously, in the way where a lot of people are oh haha, I don't know what I'm doing, but actually they do have methods or a scholar or a model to work off of. I don't have any of those things actually. This was a last minute decision. I don't have an advisor yet. My methodology is very vaguely ethnographic observation. I don't want to talk about research anymore. Let me show you something I just bought. So if you, like me, have ADHD, that rhymes. Reading is the devil. Reading and I are not friends. Reading science fiction fantasy by authors I know and love, mwah, 10 out of 10, love it. Reading academic books and articles on subjects I have to read about, even though it is my research interest, not entirely a fan of. Reading academic stuff feels like rubbing sandpaper on my skin. So one of the things that I suggest for studying with ADHD is incorporating some kind of movement into your reading. And I do often pace when I read, and I'll read out loud, but I recently bought an antique brass music stand, partially for the aesthetic, but that's part of what makes it enjoyable. And then I put my little iPad here, and then I read while I stand and annoy James. And I read, but while I read, I'm dancing and reading out loud. That's it. I'm gonna call the financial aid office now. I'm of course running late. You are on a table and I'm crouching on the ground next to a dress form. That should be my thumbnail. I am having a particularly difficult time vlogging in the city lately. The university center, which is like the big building where the library is at Parsons at the new school, has been a lot busier this semester than I've seen it before. So it's not that I am like nervous or having social anxiety about filming in front of people. It's more that I don't want to disturb the students around me because they are all very busy, and I respect that, you know, they're working in the university center to work, not to be disrupted by someone talking to themselves. Then additionally, it's very noisy outside because it's New York, so I just like have a difficult time filming when I'm in the city. Yeah, so it's Wednesday. I had some coffee with a friend who's super cool. She works with a nonprofit called Remake. They do a lot of work in terms of fashion sustainability and advocating for garment worker rights. So she's a cool person to know. I will leave Remake's info in the description box. They also have like a 90-day no-buy challenge, I think it is, that I would love to do on the channel when I'm not actively in grad school, so that's something to check out. The day has gotten considerably better. I still haven't figured out the financial aid situation, but that's life, my pained expression. But like my mood has significantly improved since then, and I'm feeling much less anxious, which is great. I'm gonna go to class. I'll catch up with you guys later. One of the classrooms I teach in. We're going strong today. I have so much happening in the next few days though. I would be lying if I didn't say I was overwhelmed, which I think is pretty obvious from how I was feeling earlier today, but we soldier on. I was about to go off about my neighbors playing music in the alleyway again when I realized that no, it was just my phone playing Hosier. I'm the problem in this scenario. The kitchen's a little bit of a disaster this morning. We had a mishap with some potatoes and some cat food. Do we have a cat? No. Why do we have cat food? That's a great question. It's Thursday and it's like almost noon. I really just needed some time to like decompress and be alone with myself and think my thoughts. So I took a long shower. Now we're here making some tea and getting ready for the day. We are wearing James's old O'Reilly's t-shirt that he used to work on his motorcycles in because I cannot be bothered to have a corporeal experience today. I have said quite a few times as I have gone about my vlogging as a 20-something-year-old in college about how I want to be more like honest and transparent and not truthful, but like, you know, like here's what life is actually like on the internet. And you know, it's always going to be impossible to do that fully to a certain extent because, you know, you don't see every single detail in my life. But then the other part of that is that like there's a lot that I just don't talk about because I don't want to seem like I'm a downer all the time. And I also don't want to like complain because I'm in a pretty privileged position. But I'm gonna complain. Don't think people understand how hard it can be to have ADHD. And I also feel self-conscious about complaining about this because like I know people in my life who have ADHD and I don't know if they feel the same way about it, but I feel this way about it, so, and this is my channel. I gave myself a to-do list yesterday to do today because I'm flying out tomorrow and I want to be prepared. And this morning I woke up and I was like, who does she think she is? She can't tell me what to do. That. I don't want to do any of it. And also just like trying to recover from an overwhelming week and having a couple of tough days. So on top of that, I'm also particularly tired. Are you working? Yes, okay. Then it's just like the little things. Like, I didn't want to walk into the kitchen because the floors are a little dirty and I didn't want to feel the stuff on the floor on the bottom of my feet, but I didn't want to put on socks because it's still warm outside, but I don't have any flip-flops to put on, so instead I just laid in bed until I eventually was like, you have no other option, just put on the socks and be a little sweaty. But it's like the stupid little things like that in the ADHD brain take priority and precedent, and they're like, this is the only thing you can think about. Nothing else is a priority aside from the fact that you just don't want to feel the texture of the floor on your feet. So like, this is the part of life that I mean to share in being like transparent, open, honest, and all that kind of stuff that I feel like I never quite hit on, because it's like it's stigmatized and it's a little embarrassing sometimes, and I don't always want to talk about it. Ah, what? Oh, I'm like, why do I have an alarm set for 11:44? That is such a weird time to have an alarm. I have to check into my flight for tomorrow. That scared me. I'm so glad that I set a reminder because I 100% forgot about that. I'm making hot tea because it is the first day that it's been under 80, and we're gonna get started on my to-do list, starting with answering emails, because answering emails seems like a pretty safe place to start. Procrastinate packing really is what I'm gonna do. My desk is always a mess. And now we can get to work. Okay, so actually we've hit a snag. I set my computer up to charge yesterday in the classroom, and I left the charger in the classroom plugged into the wall. And James has my spare charger. Okay, I'm gonna respond to emails while I can, and then give up. It's absolutely ridiculous that a reading list that I gave myself is something that is causing me so much friction. But I'm finally doing it. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm finally doing the first thing that I put on my to-do list. We are starting with Introduction to, what is this called? Fashion Studies, semicolon, Research Methods, Sites, and Practices. The introduction to that book, to get a sense of where in the book there might be information for me, who is doing ethnography. And then I have a couple of other book chapters and articles from my methods class I took last semester that I'm going to review, and then some that I didn't read that are about specifically ethnography, taking notes in the field, talking to strangers, interviews, and that kind of stuff that I'm going to try to get to. I might not get to those until I'm on the plane tomorrow, but we'll do our best. So I want to point out something that I'm reading that I meant to say earlier, and that is that I know that reading about methods can only provide so much, and then actually going and doing the methods is how you develop that skill. It's the same thing as like you can read about how to knit, but to learn to knit you have to actually pick up some knitting needles and some yarn and put them together, right? So I feel a little bit like Hermione right now in that I'm trying to be like overly prepared in the book smarts department and not the actual practical skills department. And I'm very aware of that. I'm just doing this in like an exercise of comfort, I guess. But the book said essentially what I'm trying to communicate here, and I wanted to share it with you guys, especially because in the field of fashion studies, essentially the whole introduction to this book is talking about how fashion studies is a relatively new discipline that has emerged out of like the intersection of a variety of disciplines, including like economics and sociology and anthropology and cultural studies and so on and so forth. So because of that, we use often like multiple methods, and there's a lot of things going on. Anyways, let me just read it to you and you'll see what I mean. For scholars of fashion, a method emerges more likely in one's exchange with the agents, human and non-human, and sites of exploration as a tailoring and fitting of research approaches along with the shaping of research interests and contexts. By the way, fashion puns and any academic writing about fashion makes me so happy. According to Roy Dilley, context, or rather contextualization, can be understood as a performative act embedded in the environment, background, or disciplinary location. In this conception, research is as much a situated practice as we understand fashion to be a situated practice. Fields or contexts, historical or contemporary, become generated by social relationships, and they can be understood as events that are in a constant process of becoming rather than fixed in space and time. Along with the crossover of scholars between the humanities and social sciences came the development of texts that, quote, refuse to be read in simplistic, linear, incontrovertible terms. This has also led to blurring the lines between text and context, or theory and practice, and the acknowledgement of the intersubjective and interpretive dynamics of research, mapped out by Dennison and Lincoln in a definition of qualitative research as, quote, a situated activity that locates the observer in the world. It consists of a set of interpretive, material practices that make the world visible. So researching, or locating fashion, is also linked with locating oneself as a researcher in time and place. So I read that to you to show that, and it's not a straightforward process of I have a question, I'm going to go look here for the answer. Especially in the social sciences and humanities, is very much I have an inkling that there's more to this thing than what I have read, and I'm going to take this long, meandering, wandering, circuitous path to kind of finding out what that inkling is and means and how it like fits into the world as we see it. At least that's how I see research. I don't know. All of that to say, if you have no idea what you're doing, if you're also a student researching and you have no idea what you're doing, neither do I. And I never have. And yet I somehow managed to still make it work every single time. I hope that was encouraging in some way. Good morning. It is the first day of the A Current Affair vintage market pop-up in Los Angeles. I have currently laid out all of my outfits, and I just had something a little silly to say about like the research process and ethnography, because I was doing all this reading on the plane yesterday that talked about the process of ethnography and like autoethnography as a part of that like meaning making process, and you know, a lot of academic stuff. It was talking about the decisions that the ethnographer has to make when doing ethnography, like how do we pick who to talk to and what to talk about and what activities to participate in and so on and so forth. And when it comes to fashion, something that I hadn't thought about before, that I haven't seen anyone else write about, is the decision for what to wear as the researcher. Because I'm sure it differs depending on what you're doing. Like if you're doing research in, you know, garment factories in Los Angeles, you're going to wear something different than if you're doing research in garment factories in India. And if you're going to a vintage market in Los Angeles, you might wear something different than if you're going through your family's wardrobes. So you see, like, what the researcher is wearing is something that I think is also important to note. And in my case specifically, I'm sitting here, I brought some of my favorite, like, outfits that give off a vintage vibe, but not a lot of true vintage. And I'm trying to decide what to wear with the, like, filter of knowing what other, like, how other people are going to be dressing at this event and wanting to, like, appear vintage enough and to, like, select an outfit that might get a little bit of attention from people so that I can have the opportunity to strike up conversation with someone. Interesting thought process that I wasn't expecting, which is why I wanted to vlog doing my research, because it's an interesting process for sure. So I actually wanted to give you guys both days 1 and 2 back to back with like the footage and showing you what the event looked like, because I didn't film a ton during this event. It was overwhelming, and I was trying to really be present, making my observations, making connections with people. So I just wanted to give you that all here without breaking up the footage, give you a sense of what it was really like to be there, the people, the clothes. There was also food and music. You could get a coffee, and it was in the fashion district of downtown Los Angeles, which I thought was really interesting. But unfortunately, I didn't really film on the second day, so instead here is a raw reflection on my thoughts and emotions from day 1. And yeah, enjoy. Probably gonna regret drinking this. YouTube, I am over the age of 21, thank you very much, but alcohol gives me heartburn, so. But my favorite California-based cider, and I couldn't not, okay? I'm back from the first day of the vintage show. I'm exhausted, as I typically am after large social gatherings and outings. Yeah, gosh, I don't even know how to process my thoughts right now. I'm generally feeling kind of like that emoji about everything in general right now. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't have an advisor to talk to figure out whether or not I am doing it right. I don't know if what I'm looking for exists. I don't know if I don't know. My original goal was to write like an ethnography about the vintage market, like a comparative ethnography between Los Angeles and Brooklyn. I don't know, I think 2 days isn't long enough to do something like that. So I'm also using this as an opportunity to like approach people and introduce myself and ask if I can like talk to them, interview them after the show. And you know, so many people have been very receptive to that. Not one person has said no. I mean, we'll see who responds to me afterwards. But so it's kind of like this mixed method approach of like going and observing and taking my field notes and then also interviewing people. And I like mixed methods is definitely a way to do things. It's just not like exactly how I was expecting to do stuff. And I'm also just kind of like feeling weird feelings about being in California right now, if I'm being completely honest, like some personal feelings about it. So I just have like a lot of thoughts swirling about this experience, and I've been home or like in the hotel for a little while now. I've been kind of procrastinating doing the next step that I'd like to do, which is free writing. I took quite a few notes while I was there observing and speaking to people, but I just kind of want to like let the thoughts flow out onto paper, even though I process things verbally much better. And I've never really liked free writing, but it feels necessary right now. So I'm gonna do that to try and kind of like capture a snapshot of the experience and then do it again tomorrow and then go home. I'm also kind of feeling about vintage the way that I started to feel about archaeology before I left it, which was the like when I first started like getting my hands on artifacts, it was really exciting and interesting and new. And then when I did my field work and I saw lithics all over the place, I was like, you've seen one, you've seen them all. And I kind of feel that way about vintage right now. Like, you've seen one dress, you've seen them all, which is entirely untrue. I think I'm just like overwhelmed. And one of the reasons why I actually don't really like to go vintage shopping, shock, I know, is because I get like decision paralysis and I'm overwhelmed by how many options there are essentially, and yet simultaneously disappointed. I have so many thoughts and feelings. I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna write them out because I need to like capture this in some way for my thesis. But this is a part of the process. This is just a part of the research process. I know that it is. It sucks that it is, but it is nonetheless. If you're also feeling like about your research, me too. So that was my first official experience with big F fieldwork for my thesis research. Stay tuned for more because I have another research video coming up for you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this week. It was a bit rough, but your support means the world to me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone, have a good day. Thank you for watching.